Hey everybody, welcome back to the Carryandcut YouTube channel. And if you're new here, I really do appreciate you stopping by and watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Also leave a comment down below. It really does help out the channel. And speaking of helping out the channel, if you guys would, make sure you check out our membership tab. We did finally unlock the YouTube monetization stuff. So that is really cool. This channel is taking another step, another turn, I guess you could say. And all the proceeds from that go directly back into the channel to buy new knives and new equipment to help make the quality and the content better for you guys. And that is all I'm striving to do. I'm not trying to be a millionaire off YouTube, anything like that. We're just wanting to bring some cool stuff to the knife community, and I love giving back to everybody out there. And we are also doing a 2,000 subscriber giveaway coming up, hopefully really soon. We are really close to 1,800 subscribers at the recording of this video here. So super crazy. Never thought we'd even make it this far into the YouTube journey, but here we are. So this is a super cool knife from Stephen Weigel over there, the Lanyard Man himself, and his little man Dom sent this over to us. This is the Dead Reckoning Knives Ridgeback. Check that thing out. It is a super interesting knife. There's a whole bunch of kind of high-tech wizardry going on this thing right here, especially on the insides of this. This is a aluminum integral knife with this crazy what they call this thing, a worn cleaver blade shape. So this does have I want to say it's going to be a hollow grind. I'm thinking it is. It definitely seems like one. Definitely gets super thin down here, towards the actual cutting edge itself. I'm going to go ahead and say that is definitely going to be, yeah, I don't know. It might be a flat grind. I'm going to say it's a high flat grind, but it still does come down very thin behind the edge. Why don't we go ahead and measure that while we're sitting here talking about it? And I'm kind of bouncing all over the place here. This is actually the second recording of this one because I forgot the most important part, which is going to be our size comparisons. So last time I measured, I had 20 thousandths behind the edge, and we are pretty much right there. About there's right there, 19 thousandths. Overall blade stock thickness, it's going to be 146, almost 147 thousandths on the blade stock thickness. So definitely nothing to scoff at, that's for sure. It's definitely going to be plenty capable, plenty thick. And this is an S45 VN, if I'm not mistaken. There's actually no markings on the blade, and I just can't really find out. There is, of course, a couple different models you can get, and S45 is in some of them. And then they also use 3V. So I'm thinking this is the S45. I think this is going to be one of the older models they made, but still really cool. Of course, this is the Dead Reckoning Knives Ridgeback. This is actually manufactured really close to my hometown, within an hour away in Grove City, Ohio. So really cool. $335 is kind of what the general consensus is for this knife, at least for price range. But $330 to $350. They do have some models that go up closer to the $400 range. So I know we're kind of getting in the hinder territory and stuff like that, but this is a super high tech kind of knife. Of course, it has the crazy, integral handles on it at the same time, integral handle, but this does have a the pivot system on this knife is, and the plunge lock itself is really interesting. Of course, this is going to be a button lock flipper, but if you guys can kind of see there, it's probably going to be hard for you to tell, but the pivot is actually moving with the blade itself. So it's really one piece when it's all together. Even, of course, the handles would be one piece, but the pivot and the blade are acting as one. So that was kind of a weird thing, and I really didn't know it until I started messing with this knife. If you have your thumb anywhere close to that pivot, you're not going to get that thing to open unless you really, really try. But for the most part, it's really going to hinder you. So if you're going to be flipping this knife, open and close, make sure to keep your fingers clear of the actual pivot itself, and you shouldn't have any sort of issue right there. So I just kind of went over the initial, deployment methods there. You do have the standard flipper tab, which some of the models do not. So if you're really just interested in this blade cutout, they do have that option also. So the reverse flick works exceptionally well. You can do the thumb open on it. It's kind of a different kind of, you really have to kind of, at least me, I have to like lodge my thumb up here into the top of the blade cutout to really get it popped open. This knife does have a super stiff detent though, and the flipper tab is kind of, I don't want to say it's slow, but it's just for having such a strong detent, it really doesn't fly out that fast. So it's just kind of a different thing for me, but I really do like the acoustics that this knife makes. I don't know if it's really because the integral handle or what it is, or just the way they, engineered this button lock, but it really does have a nice audible snap. You can really hear this thing engaging. and you can't see anything on the inside of it. So I don't know what kind of wizardry they have going on this thing, or how it actually locks shut, but it is super cool. So they do have precision fit. I'm pretty sure they're pressed in. I'm not 100% sure, and I'm kind of sounding like a somewhat of an idiot here. Probably should have been a little bit more prepared, but I did look into it, and it just said like extremely precision fit bearings. So this is definitely not going to be a knife that you want to be taken apart and messing with. And that being said, I feel like that is one kind of fatal downfall. They tell you on the website to even the videos that they have to not take this thing apart, because it's going to be extremely difficult to put back together for the general, everyday user. And it's not as simple as just unscrewing the pivot and sliding the pivot back in the other way and tightening it down. Of course, with the integral, it just kind of adds a whole nother level of execution to something that you have to do to try to work inside of the actual tiny little area they have right there. So just gonna be one thing to keep in mind when you are shopping for a knife like this, but still is a super cool, piece. And it's kind of like a piece of art for me, really. It's definitely extremely capable too. Steven, he loves doing these really wide edge bevels on this thing, and I wouldn't be afraid to say this would be under 15 degrees per side. And it is super slicey, even for having somewhat of a thicker blade stock on it. Of course, that's subjective. It's not going to be like bug out thin, but it's still very thin, and it does a very good job. So this is where, why don't we go ahead and do some weight and length, and then we'll do our size comparisons. All right, zero the scale out here. There it goes. So we're looking at 4.3. Yep, 4.3 ounces. Overall length of this thing. Overall cutting edge, we're looking at 3 1/4, or right at 3 1/4. Overall blade length is going to be, really just depends on where you're measuring though, but if you're kind of up here in the top part where the blade cut out, you're going to be right around 3 1/2. If you're back in here towards where the plunge grind is, you're looking at about 3 3/4 of an inch. So pretty good there. Overall length though, it's kind of a hard one to measure here. The way this blade angles up, it's just kind of interesting. So we're looking at about 8 1/4 inches overall. So definitely not a small knife by anybody's imagination. But with that being said, so your flipper tab kind of hinders you if you're going to be, cutting down on something. Of course, your knuckles are going to hit first, but your flipper tab is really what's going to be your eliminating factor. Your flipper tab hits, and then your actual, heel of your sharpened edge is actually not going to be making contact with the cutting surface. So that's just another kind of strange thing here. Even if you're doing a pinch grip and you got your index all the way up here at the tip, you're still not going to be making contact all the way at the back of the blade. So that is just, well, maybe you are. I don't know. I don't think so. It's really close though. I guess it just depends on what you're cutting through. But this does have, super great ergonomics. And I really do like this milling on this handle. That is really cool stuff. Of course, this clip is going to be reversible. So left hand or right hand tip up carry. Another thing that's really cool about this knife is there is no writing whatsoever anywhere on the blade, or anywhere on the knife for that fact. So this actual little clip cutout is the actual Dead Reckon logo. So that is a really cool thing they did. Of course, all you do is you pop that screw out. This piece comes up. You just flip flop it, goes right back in, and it's very cool. This yeah, I'm pretty sure that the screw here, I've already taken this out and flipped it. Steven's a lefty, but this screw is holding in the clip from that side. So it's kind of crazy how it all works and comes together. They put a lot of engineering into this thing. That is for sure. So, and of course, for the price of a USA made aluminum integral, and for the pretty good, great blade steel, I guess you could say, it's really not a bad price if you're really thinking about it. 330 bucks, under $350, pretty cool. So why don't we go ahead and do the PM2? That's going to be a really good size comparison there. We're really close overall. How about the pair 3? This is the lightweight in 15B. Of course, it's going to be way smaller than that one, or way bigger than that one. How about the Spyderco Shaman? This is in the black micarta and CTS XHP, so that's going to be a very good size comparison right there. How about the Benchmade 940? Okay, pretty good. How about the TRM Atom? So this is a pretty good, full size knife is what I'm trying to get at here. And how about the Ontario Rat Model 2? So I wish I had a Rat 1, don't have one, but that's going to be a pretty good size comparison there. I really don't have too many gripes about this knife. I have a lot of pros, not too many cons. The only con that I do have is it's going to be the ease of maintenance, which is going to be pretty much none. So with that being said, that they don't want you to take this knife apart, it's not going to be as easy as just taking this pivot out, popping right back in. It's might get some clutter in those bearings. Not really sure on that though. It does have super smooth action. You hit the button and it just falls right shut. But I just feel like that could raise some problems, further on down the road. And of course, you could send it back to a dead wreck and they will definitely take care of it for you. But a person like me, I'm a big fan of being able to take apart my stuff and clean it and put it back together. So that is going to be one thing if you're interested in looking at one of these knives. Just keep that in mind. But for the overall experience, this is a super good. I want to say you could probably hard use this knife for sure. I mean, I'm not going to say it's definitely going to be very capable, super stout handle, nice and thick on the blade stock. And I'm sure this lock can take a whole bunch of abuse. Not going to do a abuse test on this thing, but for the most part, I'm going to say it's definitely a very capable knife. And I really do want to give a huge shout out to Steven for sending this knife over to me. It means the world. Wouldn't be able to do it without awesome people like him sending stuff in for me to take a look at. So I think that's going to pretty much wrap this one up. Stay tuned for what's coming next. So I got some pretty cool knives coming from Steven also. So we will catch you guys on the next one. Really do appreciate it. And thank you.